What's up, demons and demonettes? Tis I, Atraxi, a demon queen, and today we're talking about the latest hero to hit AFkJourney. That is a Cyran. But before we get into it, as always, toss a like and subscribe down below. Now, as you can see, we went a crown, day 1, crazy. So let's talk about his abilities and what he's good for and why I think he's good. Alright, the Cyran selects a tile and summons a black hole that lasts for 5 seconds, with the center covering a 1 tile radius. Every half second, enemies within the center take damage, and those outside the center by 4 tiles take additional damage. All enemies on the battlefield are pulled toward the center. So in a way, it works a little bit like Aaron's vacuum. Just the black hole, it sucks everybody in. And non-boss enemies within the center are immediately defeated. So it works like an execute, very similar. So his execute works more like Odie's than a Cryonaya's or Scarlita's. However, it's that same damage range as a Cryonaya or Scarlita. Because Odie, as you may notice, his execute built up over time. The Cyran's execute is fixed and only works during his ult, very much like a Cryonaya. However, it won't kill enemies like Thorin or Talene right off the bat. They will just use their cheat death to get around it. But it will kill heroes like Igor or Brutus. Alright. So, and then he has initial 400 energy gain, Arcane Barrage. A Cyran casts 3 magic orbs towards the area with the most enemies, dealing damage. A Cyran Cursed Grasp. Cyran uses a magic to lift the nearest enemy into the air, imprisoning them for 1 second before hurling them into the area with the most enemies. This knocks the target down for half a second, deals damage to the enemies that are by it, and he is unaffected he won't target the unaffected or steadfast enemies first. He'll prioritize the enemies that aren't. So say you have something where Shakir's in his ult, he's unaffected, and you have, say, like an Odie, he'll prioritize Odie over your Shakir. Hero Focus just increases his crit. Alright, Mystic Recollection. This is his EX weapon. This is kind of what makes him unique. Alright, Cyran mimics some of Merlin's spells. At the beginning, he gets himself Enlightening, so he gets a little bit of haste, and he's unaffected for the first 8 seconds. Confining Spell, he deals 25% damage to the rearmost hero, and he imprisons them for 1.5 seconds, preventing them from moving or acting. And the huge one, and this is why he's really good, is he has this big burst attack. He does Star Shard Spell, conjures a Dark Flame across the battlefield, dealing 40% true damage to all enemies, and reducing their attack speed by 20 for 5 seconds. Now, the levels, level 2 just increases the damage. At level 3, it becomes even more unique. If Merlin is present on the enemy side of the battle, which is only for PvP, Merlin is silenced for 8 seconds. So this essentially cancels out your opponent's artifact for the first 8 seconds of a fight. Alright, after that's triggered, he loses 5% of his current HP. And if there is no Merlin, he just gets an attack bonus of 10%. At the next level, it increases Dark Flame by 50%. And then his focus just gives him an additional 200 energy. Alright. So, he's not very good in Dream Realm, so we'll start there first. We'll just go back a couple days to where we actually tested him in Dream Realm, right? And we could just see that his damage is awful. Why is his damage awful? It's because he has that huge burst at the beginning of the fight, and he's more of an AoE type character, so he's better when he's fighting multiple mobs, right? So he wants, the more mobs he's fighting, the better, because especially if they're grouped up. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to talk about stages. I'd love to show you some records, but for whatever reason, the records aren't working right now. We don't have any clear records with him here, just because he's not great at a high deficit. He is good at a low deficit, or when you are early on in push. So it's kind of like this niche role that he could fill at the beginning of the season. So if you're just starting the season, you pull for him, you get ahead in stages a lot quicker with him than without him, just because of the initial burst and because of the executability. So we're talking maybe you're getting like an extra hour or two of total XP. Is it that huge of an issue in the big picture? No, it's just something that'll help you out early on in a season. Up until you get to this point, he's still very good in stages. There's some times where you want to use him instead of Aaron because his black hole, if we put them here both on the same stage, they should survive, I think. So let's get Parisa back. And the reason why we wouldn't run him against Thorin is because his execute won't kill Thorin. But we can run them here together, and you can kind of like see. So Aaron goes here. We'll manual his black hole. So his ult goes off very quick. It's some cases you're going to want your Aaron ult, so it has like this huge range. So we can drop it here, and then it's going to pull all the enemies here, which is kind of nice because it makes it a little bit easier for your smoky stages to control them if you don't need that initial Aaron CC. You maybe need like 2 black holes to get them into your smoky area, whereas opposed to Aaron, you may need 3 to 4 depending on the stage that you're running. We're not going to get that stage, so we're going to bounce out. Here, again, not in any clear records. Everything's kind of like set. This is an Omis stage, so we're running Harak to try to beat down Omis, but no success on that stage. So again, high deficit, never a good time. So he's decent there. He's decent enough in a Relentless Rumble. So when we go here, as you see, my highest kill is 33. If we were to say drop, well, this was the best squad. And if we drop it and we run Cyran, we're only getting a 1 less. So he's good on these horde type modes. He's not bad on the flip side here. And he wasn't bad on here. So he's good for these horde modes in getting the kills. He has the advantage over Cryonaya on some of these because he doesn't eat up the clock like she eats up the clock. So he's not a clock hog where a Cryonaya is. And so he has the edge, I think, over Cryonaya in some stages that don't have a Thorin or a Talene where you may want that execute. Talene, you typically don't need the execute. Thorin, when you're at a higher deficit, you need that execute from Scar or Cryo. Now, let's talk about where he's best and why he's so good. Alright, so we're gonna go into Arena. And we're gonna look at here. And let's go down here where we did our initial testing. Now, what I did was I stuck him in with my P4, P3 team at S+, right? And he's going up against P2, P3, P4, right? So we're kind of almost, we have a little bit of a Paragon advantage, but as you can see, Cyran is at a huge disadvantage when it comes to Paragon levels in this fight, as he has none. Now you can see, even at S+, he does almost as much damage as our Harak here, and out damages our Sylvina. So let's take a look and see how this goes. So you see he takes a big hit, but he doesn't die. So he's very chunky. We have him next to the Ludovic, so he almost gets instantaneously healed up. And he cancels that ult. So what does that canceling that ult mean? It means that he can cancel Insight. So typically what a lot of people will do in Arena or Supreme Arena to a lesser extent is they will run Insight on their back hero, Lightforge in Supreme Arena, to kind of like protect them, make them unaffected, that type of thing. So think like your Dio, Cryo, Harak, that type. They're going to be in that back hero. Now we can target them with Bonnie, but now he's going to cancel their insight. So they're open up to things like stun and being vulnerable to a Sylvina. Sylvina Harak combo being one of my favorites. Now, just to compare, I said, oh, he's really, really good. Now, we haven't had one of those heroes that really can hold their own in Arena or Supreme Arena or PvP in general since the Paragon changes. He is the first one. So I pushed him up to Paragon 1. And now this is where we see the big change. As you can see here at Paragon 1, he does twice as much damage as Harak, and he becomes extremely bursty. So, let's take a look and see how it goes. And you can see his Dark Flame does this huge burst at the beginning. Then he hits him with the Arcane Barrage, and then Harak kind of just does his thing and finishes everybody off. Right? Now, you don't notice he does not get his ult off, typically because he's a Lily May bait, because he starts out with 600 initial energy, so he typically gets his energy up quick. And if he's going against a Lily May, unless you run like an Aaron or a Brian to eat the initial Lily May, he's going to be the first one to eat that. So that's something you can also consider in running him with other big ticket heroes, that he does a ton of burst damage. You can see there, he didn't get his ult off. He still did the most damage, which means he synergizes well with Dunlinger. He's good against Lily May teams because he doesn't need his ult to be good in PvP, which is huge. And then that way you can use him to use his ult to bait it to have a second win condition like a Cryonaya. Alright. So here again, we see him at P2. He does slightly more damage. And, well, check this out. You see, now it's really adding to his survivability, and he gets a little bit more damage. So I said, okay, well, we're just going to skip P3. We're just going to go straight for P4. And this is where we get hit with the law of diminishing returns. So as you can see, he doesn't do as much damage here as he did in the other ones compared to like a Harak. Actually, this fight goes a little bit longer. Could be RNG. But, yeah, he doesn't like, scale up. He kind of, like, plateaus. So, like, I think you can get away with P2. It's kind of like the sweet spot, because then you're not having to build P3. You're not having to build P4, which are very costly. So, unless you're going to, like, Mega Whale for this hero, for your PvP team, you can get away with building him for P2. Now, if you're worried about, oh, like, Shamir is going to come out, she's going to be amazing. The other thing is we get a swap ticket in 3 weeks, so you can easily, build him up to a Paragon 2 level if you think Shamir is going to be really powerful. If not, you could just leave him at Supreme Plus. He'll still be very effective. Just remember to build up his EX weapon. Alright, so we did that. But, of course, that's not enough testing. That's just a regular arena. Now, I don't get to fight in a Supreme Arena. I get the true Kraken experience there. I just kind of sit at the top because nobody can really touch my teams. Like, where I can be beat in a regular arena in a one-on-one match, when you add that extra element of having to use 3 teams, it's completely different. Now, we did, like, a tour of Wales, I will say, on our account, and we hit some other people. As you may notice, we have Turtle Eggs here. Turtle Eggs has a fairly sizable account, right? So he's running like P2, P3 here, P4 Lily, and we have our Cyran. Now, he works great on the tile sets with a Wilder and with a Graveborn. Here, we're running a Graveborn because I think I was just kind of like in a Graveborn phase in testing at this time. but we can certainly check it out and see how it goes. Of course, we have to slow it down because otherwise these fights go so fast. So you can see there, you know, we do a great job. He is our number 1 DPS overall. Sylvina just doesn't manage to catch him. Yes, the fight goes a little bit longer, but we use our Sylvina to jump somebody, and then he does a really nice. Okay, so all right, let's see if we can go in and we can check some other logs. All right, see, we beat 0 here. Again, we were on the Graveborn kick. We beat a Bonnie Taylene team. I will mention that he is vulnerable to Bonnie, as are most other heroes. And we did manage to do that there. Let's see, we had to reconfigure here. We went with the Wilder to beat Wilder because the Graveborn comp didn't work. But that's just kind of like a regular control, so that's not too scary. That one's not scary. Let's see. We got Lucia here from Radiant. Yeah, as you see, they are running a Cyran. We struggled against this team as well because, again, it is a Wilder comp, but we did manage to switch. So, where you might normally run a Cryo in this comp, Cyran works really well. So, let's check it out. So as you can see, he works really well with the Wilder tiles as well. Kind of filling in that Cryo role, but he's very bursty. And then we go down here, and you know we've been testing him, and we've got Ants here. We've got this monster team, like a whole crown team for his PvP team, pretty much except for Burial, and done here, right? But we couldn't beat it with the Wilder tiles yesterday, today, or the previous day. I tested it with the Graveborn tiles here, and you see we can get the victory. So that's why I say he... And this is only at 20 Graveborn faction talent to 30 faction talent for his Celestial Hypogean. So sometimes Wilder isn't going to work. We can run him with the Graveborn comp. If the Graveborn comp doesn't work, we can run him with the Wilder comp. Both comps very feasible. Now, I run him with Kaelin here. You can always substitute in Thorin, Valka, or Igor. For Kaelin, they typically work the same-ish. Just the better of them is going to be Thorin or Kaelin. They typically have the better results. You can also substitute in Sylvina for Bonnie, but again, that's kind of like the core of the team, which was done. Bonnie, Ludovic, Kaelin. It was kind of like the core that I came up with that wins in PvP and can easily beat the Wilder tiles, and you saw has success against big, bad Celestial Hypogean teams. Kaelin is a nice tank. He's kind of mid, he's kind of niche, but he does do that niche really well. He's good if you pair him with a Ludovic. He's good at countering burst, and he's good at countering control. So we used that combo there. But again, we have done to kind of counter some of that as well. So we kind of get like this triple type counter thing between them, and we just let our Bonnie and Cyran do all the work. Now, Cyran is comparable to Bonnie. They typically tie. Bonnie may beat him in DPS, even at one less Paragon level. She's just that strong of a hero. But again, they synergize well because he's doing a ton of magic damage. So, in a way, he becomes what we call a super spreader. Works very much like a Cryonia in this comp. Also works great if you put Cryonia, Cyran, and Bonnie together. So those are my two kind of like favorite teams to run. Now you can also run it with the version without done. If you're running Wilders, you could run like Tassie, Taylene, Cyran and 2 other Wilders and run that version works as well if you need another Supreme Arena type team. So that's what it is. So, seeing as I thought he was phenomenal for a PvP, yeah, we went ahead and we gave him the crown. He may very well be the best banner that we are going to get this season. The only one that I speculate that could maybe be better is going to be a Shamira, just with how niche some of the A tier heroes have been, other than say Bonnie. Yeah, he may be the only one we get this season, since we're only getting 7, and it hasn't looked all that great. But definitely, if you're going to go in for a banner this season, this is a good one to go on. Again, I say it's low risk. If you go big on him, you get a great hero for stages, especially if you are a new account. He's great for you if you're just kind of starting out. He's a great banner to pull for, because he's going to help you out in stages. He's going to help you out in arena, right? So you can climb that ladder and get those arena rewards, which you can then turn into stellars later on through the shop. So where would I grade him? Because of his damage in Dream Realm being rather low and him not being a bossing type hero, I can't say that he is a must pull, but I really love him for PvP. If you're big on PvP and want a hero that's really going to help you out there, then he is really, really good. So I would say he's a really nice hero to have on your roster. Again, he's kind of unique, has that unique ability to counter Merlin. He'll be great on your Supreme Arena roster. Good for other multi-PvP modes, like your Clash fronts. I stuck him in there. He's doing great for me in combat trials. You can use him in a Crystal Clash. When that comes around, he's going to be another great weapon that you can use on attack to easily get your count. And that's it for this one. I hope you enjoy this hero. I'm loving him. Bye!